What's up, fam? Mr. Broke Capitalist coming at you. It's, I think, February 28th, 2023, or as I like to say, 2020, part 3. We're living in an amazing time, scary time. When I say amazing, I'm particularly talking about, technology. Last couple of videos I've done, I've talked about Chat GPT, this precursor to an general artificial intelligence. And I've been able to do some amazing things with this new technology. I mean, this thing can translate books in languages. It can write code, that you copy and paste, and boom, next thing you know, you got a website. It can format stuff. I mean, it's online, stock trading almost, I think. Anyway, it's a lot of stuff going on right now. And it got me to thinking. Someone sent me this. If you've been on this channel before, I am not watching Crisis News Network. But the subject matter was on point, and it's on a subject that I've been talking about for a while, and I thought I'd put something together right quick. So let's hear what this guy got to say. Forgive me for making you sit through this particular network, but just listen to it.
Last week, I delved here into recent data from the CDC suggesting major problems with regard to the mental health of our adolescents, surges in depression and suicidal ideation, especially true for our girls. This week, I found cause to worry about young men. This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not. The story reported that as of 2022, Pew Research Center found 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living with a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of all young adults are single. Now, look at these numbers. 34% of women, twice as many, a whopping 63% of men. What explains that? I pulled the Pew study and I read with interest. Turns out since 2019, the share of single men who say they're looking for dates or a relationship has declined from 61% to 50%. In 2018, 28% of men ages 18 to 30 reported they'd had no sex in the past year, compared with 18% of women of that age. The Hill report said men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts all of young America. Among the causes, among the factors, a reliance on social media and online porn. But also, more young women are hooking up with each other or dating and marrying slightly older men, and heterosexual women are getting more choosy. Other troubling statistics about men come from a 2021 study from the Survey Center for American Life. They found the share of men who have 6 or more close friends, which in 1990 was 55%, by 2021 had shrunk by half. Meanwhile, those with literally 0 close friends, which stood at 3% in 1990, has zoomed to 15%. And
Hey, back in the day, kids used to play outside and randomly come across a stranger that becomes their friend. That's a simple explanation right there, but I'll let them keep going.
Expert quoted by The Hill said this disconnect can have catastrophic consequences for young men. Quote, in the worst case scenario, the young American man's social disconnect can have tragic consequences. Young men commit suicide at 4 times the rate of young women. Younger women are largely responsible for rising rates of mass shootings, a trend that some researchers link to their growing social isolation. Well, those words reminded me of a conversation that I had over a year ago right here on CNN with NYU professor Scott Galloway.
But the issue is, when you have a group of men, the lower half of attractiveness of men in online dating, which has doubled, now it's about half of relationships, and the top 20% of men in terms of attractiveness get about 60% of the interest, you end up with a group of men that are more prone to conspiracy theory, more prone to misogynistic content, more prone to not believe in climate change. So this is the American story. If it's written with a pen whose ink is failing young men, does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
See what they did there? See how they threw that in there at the end? Did you catch it? We're talking about an existential crisis, right? Which I agree with totally. But here's their chance to throw in climate change, right? These people are just despicable, man. So they brought up some facts and figures that's convenient for me to talk about. So I thank them for that. But I'm always thinking about 5 years out, 10 years out, right? And what ChatGPT had me thinking about was 1 year out. Because ChatGPT, I may have said this the last time, it searches 100, when it searches something, it goes about firing on 175 billion parameters. And this is ChatGPT 3, and next year we're supposed to get ChatGPT 4, which is supposed to touch upon about 1 trillion parameters. I mean, you're talking about change. I mean, significant change. You know, we've always had change. Technology isn't stopping, but now, like I said before, that little water around your toes that you're walking in, turn around. That's a tsunami, man. It's coming, and you either got to get uphill or just get washed away. And I think those who are listening to this and alternative media, you'll at least have the opportunity to get uphill. Now, what technology is also doing is having a negative effect on the family unit, the nuclear family unit. I don't care about the intent. I don't believe technology has any intent. I'm talking about the effect. And when you have the combination of socialist ideologies or even Marxist ideology, and we'll talk about the bad part of socialist and Marxist ideologies after a word from my man, and then I'll be back.
I just wanted to remind you guys to check out thebrokecapitalist.com. You'll find some awesome books there, including a historical fantasy fiction series that I star in, called Ideas in Blood. Now back to Andre.
I'm back. Now, the bad part of socialist ideologies, Marxist ideologies, is the good part. Equality. Everybody should be equal. You know, we're all the same. But I think a lot of people have taken this out of context. Yes, we're all created equal. We all should be equal, but there's roles to this. There's a football team. You got a quarterback, right? You got an army. You got a general. The old saying, you got Indians. You got a chief, right? So in the nuclear family, that's how it was. And I don't care about whether it's the man leading the husband. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody leading the people in the house. So if you are a man married to a woman, right? One of you guys you can't play the same role, right? If, one of you guys are good in one thing, the other is good in the other, then you work together, be efficient, and go forward, right? Traditionally, I believe the man is there to provide, protect, and to teach responsibility to the children. The woman is there to nurture and take care of the household, and both of them have to respect each other. Now, if it's a same-sex marriage, right, one of you dudes got to teach, if you're having kids, responsibility, and the other one got to teach nurturing. If it's 2 women, same thing, right? Now, what's bad about this? Well, it takes away the necessity to rely on someone else, right? So let's say back in the 50s, the average woman had to rely on a man for her, house, home, and finances. That was just, and prior to the 1950s, going all the way back to Adam and Eve, that's just how it was. Now, you had a lot of assholes taking advantage of women in that situation because they knew that, especially if you go back to the early 1900s, if she got a divorce, she was screwed. Society frowned upon her. A lot of places she just couldn't work, not because it was illegal, but society, what manager is going to hire this woman to work with all these men? Like, you had these societal faux pas or whatever, right? But now that all that's gone away, the necessity for women to rely on men is dwindled. And what does that do? Well, you have a lot of women waiting later in life to settle down. And often that decision to settle down happens after they, exhausted all these opportunities between 20 and 30 to hook up with an average dude who would treat her right, whatever. And so she spent the decade in her 20s aiming for that guy all women want on Tinder, which is he makes six figures, he has washboard abs, and he's 6'3", right? And he's got a degree and a house, right? So you get 100 women trying to hook up with this one guy, and this one guy will date 100 women. Meanwhile, there's 99 guys who can't get a date from a woman. And so after that, after that woman the 99 women who didn't get that one guy, when they turn 31 and they're like, oh my God, I think I want to be a mother. Well, she's a career woman. And statistics say similarly situated women make more money than similarly situated men today, right? So she's less likely to settle even then, right? So what does that do? That puts a lot of pressure on the nuclear family. Bad pressure, right? Because now she's like, I'm not blaming this on women. I'm just saying this is reality. She's waited till she's 30-something. The men that she passed up, maybe they've hooked up with somebody already. So there's less men for her. So what does that mean? She either chooses not to have a child, and if she doesn't have a child, then she doesn't need a man. She may want a man, but she don't need a man, right? And then same thing for the dude. He's like, well, shit, I can't get a woman. I make decent money, but all these chicks I'm dating make as much or more, so I don't feel valued in this relationship. And he can't have a woman he can't have a kid without the woman. So there's more pressure on the nuclear family. And then when you add the socialist ideas of everybody's equal, which basically equates to, girl, you don't need no man, just get your own job, right? And dudes like, I don't know what's wrong with these women. I open the door for them. They look like I'm crazy. You're going to have, the future is less and less nuclear families. I don't care what the intent is. That's going to be the results. The more technology that comes down the pipe, like now you can just type in, please give me a picture of a wooden shed with a solid gold roof with two bears outside eating corn on a cob. You can type that into a prompt. Instantaneously, you get a picture. Either if you want it hand drawn, if you want it cyberpunk style, if you want it in the Rembrandt style, if you want it Picasso style, instantaneously. You can do that today. So that just wiped out a whole bunch of artists as far as maybe they had side gigs, they were doing portrait paintings on the side or for marketing firms and all that. Don't need them. So all that to say, that water you feel on your toes, that's not just your regular tide coming in. Look a little further out there. That's a tsunami coming at you. And what you got to do is prepare for it. So when you out in the dating world, the tsunami I'm talking about is technology. So when you out in the dating world and you're looking for a mate, you have to keep this in mind. Your value, if you're a man, your value is just naturally equated to what you can provide, right? So you may be today the head analyst at so-and-so bank, and you think, hey, I'm dating this girl. She really is impressed with the job I got. I think I want to ask her to marry her. So, you know, when we get married, we can buy that house and have these kids. Well, dude, your job may be extinct next year. Not your position, your whole job. Like if you got analyst in your title, there's no need for your work in about a year and a half, 2 years. That's my prediction. So what are you gonna do? You get married as an analyst, you making money, y'all make about the same amount of money. Your job is gone. Now she looking at you sideways because you're supposed to be providing, even though y'all make the same amount of money. It's just natural. It's been like that since Adam and Eve. The dude provides. And this is going to create so much downward pressure on the nuclear family that either guys will see this and say, you know what? I don't know if I have the ability to provide constantly throughout a marriage. Like, you know, we have a kid, raise a kid, get them through high school, send them to college. I don't know if I'll have steady employment to do that. And then you might have a woman saying the same thing. Well, shoot, I don't know if he'll have steady employment to do that. So both of them may be kind of skirmish on getting married. Don't look at it looking backwards. You got to look at it looking forward. If you're going to be with somebody, if you're going to raise children, you have to realize that you have to stay abreast of all these technological changes. This is something that our parents didn't have to do, right? We have to stay abreast of this stuff because it's coming fast and furious, and be weary of long-term financial commitments. Now, you can have a long-term, you know, marital commitment, but you can't have a marriage like the Cleavers had or the Brady Bunch had. I don't think that's realistic going forward. Now, if you in a traditional marriage now, I ain't talking to you. I'm talking about those who in like next couple of years, they starting to settle down and think about getting married. You can't think of marriage the way I thought of it and my parents thought of it. And with that said, I hope you get something out of this. Like, share, and subscribe if you got to the end of this. I appreciate it. Check me out should be this Thursday in the hangout with Rethinking the Dollar and the Coming Crisis. I'll put a link to that in the description after it happens. With that, peace. I'm out.